Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. We're out on the west coast in Boring, Oregon, which is a town that's a little bit southeast of Portland, Oregon, at Iseli Nursery. There'll be a few videos from this that you have seen, including a stabilizer walk-around video of this entire garden if you want to sit back and take a look at this entire really beautiful, mostly conifer garden, although there are some other things in here as well. We're going to jump into this video and talk about some of the blue conifers that are in this garden, some of which are not as heat tolerant. And so, you know, our home base being Raleigh, North Carolina, zone 7B, almost 8A, a few of these conifers are probably not going to thrive, but a lot of the ones in the video will. So we're just going to go through and show you some of these really incredible blue conifers. Of course, behind me we have the Picea pungens, or Colorado blue spruce. Iseli has introduced a lot of plants out into the trade over their time in this in horticulture, and this is a giant nursery, like close to 1,000 acres or something like that. This is one of their introductions. This Colorado blue spruce is called Monty. You can see the incredibly tight form to this one. This is out in full sun, and for us in Raleigh, we've got our blue spruce. We have a dwarf blue spruce in the back garden. It's not quite this blue because I can't put it in quite as much sun in zone 7B, zone 8. Blue spruce are native, you know, from zone 1 down to zone 7 in a lot of the western states, and of course they've been spread out all over the world from there. Tons of them up in the Northeast if you visit gardens up in the Northeast. But some of their introductions are just absolutely incredible. They have prostrate ones that lay flat to the ground, ones that get, are in the 3 to 4 foot range, and of course Monty here, which has an incredibly tight, compact habit. You could keep this way for probably 20 years or so without any problem, as opposed to the regular blue spruce, which will get, very large over time. But this is an incredible one. This Pinus parviflora really draws my attention. Really just a beautiful, interesting plant out here. This particular cultivar is called Koru. It has these needles on the end just kind of bend around, and you can see the bottom of them, and they have this blue hue to them. Really beautiful. The cones on this can become a little bit white as well, and add some interest on it. It has an irregular habit like this. Not the fastest growing thing. A lot of these conifers I'm going to show you are not the fastest growing things, although some of them are a little bit faster. This one really draws the eye in the garden, and the irregular needles on the end, these kind of curved needles, really allow you to see the bottom of the needle where it has that blue streak in it. What a beautiful plant. Next up is this Picea engelmannii, or Engelmann spruce, or white spruce. This one is called Bush's Lace, and you can see the incredible blue coloration, especially in the newer growth on this one. It has this weeping habit. You can see up here above me. This is another one that's native to the Pacific Northwest, but they're actually hardy from zone 1 to 8 or 2 to 8. Beautiful screening plant here. I mean, if you're in zone 5 or 6, 7A, man, what a plant this is. For me, I would probably put this in a container, buy a small one, keep it in a container for a while, where I can, move it about some, not have it in the full sun all day. I could probably keep this for years in a container. Having the roots in the container like that will slow the growth down. These are pretty slow growing, a lot of these conifers are, but once they start to get some momentum in the ground for a while, the root system really develops, they can probably put on a fairly substantial amount of growth once they reach this size. Next up is Picea glauca pendula. This one is not quite as heat tolerant as some of the others, but I have seen very large specimens of this, and there's one in this garden that's quite a bit bigger. This is another one that's referred to as white spruce. This one's native to like Alaska and all the way over to Newfoundland through Canada, Montana, really cold areas that Picea glauca is native to. And of course pendula, this one has that weeping habit, that great blue coloration. It's not, a lot of the other things we're going to show you are not going to be as blue, as one of these blue spruces over here, when you put them side by side. But this blue hue, nonetheless, does stand out here in the garden. What an incredibly beautiful plant. And if you have a small lot and you're in a cold area of the country, you know, this is the thing we look for in our Raleigh garden. It's 0.19 acres, is something that can be dramatic and be big, but not eat up a lot of ground space at the same time. Next up is a fantastic ground cover juniper. This is Juniperus conferta silver mist. Blue Pacific is one that I've shown off many times on the channel. It's also Juniperus conferta. Also all gold. This video is about blue conifers. We're going to do one about gold conifers, and certainly all gold. The gold version of this will be in that video. Just fantastic plants. I like these are called shore junipers sometimes. I like these over blue rug or some of the ones that lay slightly flatter than this. They tend to outlive. Blue rug stays so tight to the ground that it can sometimes be its own worst enemy. It'll end up holding water in place, and the only real enemy of these is soggy soil. And they end up creating soggy soil. This one is a little more upright, and I think it breathes a little better. Something is different about it, but I find that they outlive some of the other really tighter growing ground cover junipers. Beautiful silvery blue color on this one, and there's just nothing to do to it. Like once a year they can come along this pathway and, you know, cut it back to the edge of the pathway. And other than that, look how much mulch this is saving in this garden with a pretty dramatic coloration to it. This is a pretty fun one. This is a green wave Cedrus atlantica. This was a broom on Cedrus atlantica glauca. A broom would be just some sort of strange growth that you see, you know, out on the tips of a branch. We actually were riding our bikes not that far from here the other day and saw a broom on a spruce, which was interesting. I'm sure it would, you know, that's how we end up with some of these dwarfs, just a strange dwarf, strange growth that occurs on one of these larger ones. They have a very large Cedrus atlantica glauca in the garden here, very, very large. So this dwarf spreading version right here is kind of probably something that lends itself to a lot of gardens. Has this great blue hue on it. Cedrus atlantica is one of the true cedrus or cedars, actual cedars. We call lots of things cedars, and not most of those things aren't cedars, but this one is. These are hardy in zone 6 to 9. So folks living in the, you know, a lot of the things I've shown you, so the last two, the juniper and this, we could definitely grow in the southeast really, really well. And I love this spreading habit. The blue coloration in that new growth is just really, really striking. Next up is an Arizona cypress. This one's called Blue Pyramid. When we were here yesterday, they were doing the pruning on this, just to, you know, kind of reining it in. And these guys pruning these things have done this for so long that they do an incredible job of actually, you can't really tell until you get up really close to it that it's been pruned pretty hard in the last couple of days. Interesting foliage smell on these. These are great screening plants. They're, you know, native to the Southwest United States, but we moved them over to the Southeast and they grow like crazy. This is a great screening plant. This Blue Pyramid is obviously, even though it's been pruned, it's also definitely more upright and narrow and has a kind of a richer blue hue to it than some of the other ones like Carolina Sapphire, although Carolina Sapphire has great blue coloration as well. But this icy blue color in the garden, this is one that we can have in the Southeast, in the hot, humid areas. And what a great, great statement piece, screening plant. Going to get big, big, big over time unless you're doing what they're doing here, which is kind of constantly keeping it in this shape, you know, on a very tall ladder. But you can do this, but typically this is one you're going to put on the edge of your property and just let it become as big as it wants to get. Juniperus squamata blue star, or blue star juniper. This one's been around for a long, long time. I like to include some of the things in these videos that you could definitely go to a store and get for sure. This is an incredible specimen to me because in the East Coast, they're not, you know, we're in, again, these are hardy in zone 4 to 8, but in our area of zone 8A-ish, they do okay, but it seems to be the heat seems to hold them back a bit. I've never seen one in the ground, you know, back east. I'm sure there is one somewhere, but this thing is 10 feet across and very, very happy to be in the Pacific Northwest. Still a great plant. I think this one would, you know, make a fantastic container plant for anybody, anywhere in zone 4 to 8. This one's can be, you know, it's soft to the touch on the newest growth, but it's a little bit more prickly down inside of it. So it's not one that I would, you know, be in there pruning on all the time. Probably the truest blue of the ground cover junipers. You know, if you're going to we call lots of them blue, and they have a blue hue to them, like the junipers converta back there. But this one has that true blue, rich color to it. Next up is this dwarf Korean pine. This one has a little bit of a funny name. It's called blue ball. It's 3 feet by 3 feet in some reasonable amount of time. This one's obviously been in the ground for a long time. These are fairly slow growing. This species, the Korean pine is I think fairly endangered. I think it's a fairly rare species in the wild in Asia, but this is a cultivar named variety of it. There's a dwarf with this incredible blue hue to it. It's just an absolutely beautiful plant. They're hardy in zone 3 to 8. They're super soft to the touch. Like a lot of pines, you wouldn't want to be messing around with like this, but this one is just weirdly super soft. Love this plant. Every time we've been touring this garden here for a couple days now, and you can't walk past this one without taking a good long look at it. Look how full it is. Just a perfect ornamental plant. Next up is the 2014 conifer of the year. This is a Korean fir called Icebreaker. There's several of these planted in the garden here at Iseli, and most of them are about this tall. They're little kind of flat growing balls. In time though, it will develop a leader, and you can choose to keep that leader and have it become, like this little Christmas tree shape that this one is, or again, you can prune it out and keep it as a much smaller plant in the garden. Not in a big hurry. I love these Korean firs. The needles kind of, reach around forward like this, and they, feels like a rope in your hand when you're, when you're touching it. The backs of all of these needles are blue, or this icy white blue, and the top side are actually green, so it has that two-tone coloration throughout. Just a beautiful plant. These are hardy in 3 to 8, I believe, no, 3 to 7. Just a beautiful plant. Save this one for last on purpose because it has this incredible icy blue coloration. And again, there's several planted in the garden. Every time you get near one, it's like, just screams out to you. We covered 10 species in this, but there are a ton more in this garden. And we could just do a video on Picea pungens. We showed you the one right there at the beginning of the video. There's probably 50 different ones in the garden, so we're just trying to show off one of each species, and then there's just tons of other things in here that have incredible blue foliage on them. You can go to your local garden center and ask if they order things from Iseli. Most do. We probably have 4 garden centers in Raleigh that I could go into right now and ask if they get things from out here in Oregon at Iseli, and then maybe they can add something onto the order for next year if they're placing an order for spring. Just unbelievable. This garden is just beyond. And if you've watched any of the other videos at this point, there's also going to be a gold conifer video coming as well, and then one on the Japanese maples also. Thanks for watching.